What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're not going to be doing a practice. I thought it would be nice to go through my history of practices, all the different, from the very beginning all the way up to what I've done now. And I think it would be nice just to show both progression and my thoughts at the time, if I can remember my thoughts at the time. But I really think this would be an important video to make, in my opinion. And there's no better place to start with it than to start at the very first one. Now, this was the very first tattoo that I tried. I remember when I did it because it was at my 2 houses ago when I still lived with my parents. It was done at the kitchen table, and I'll bring it up closer. So you can see a lot of problems in it, like how patchy it is, how light the outline is. And the main reason for a lot of that, I was having a lot of problems with trying to do it. Obviously, the main problem was I shouldn't have been trying to do a color, like a full color design to start with. I should have probably started with lines and then moved on with that. The problem I was running into with these was how thin the practice skins are. I went with the cheapest option I could find, and I don't know if you can see, but those are not even a millimeter thick. It caused a lot of problems because at that time, what I was doing was every time because I was doing it just at the kitchen table, just straight up onto this, I didn't know anything about sanitation or anything about setting up a station. I was just trying it. The main problem I was running into was because of how thin these are, my needles were just going straight through it into the kitchen table and just hanging up constantly, and it just... So what I ended up doing after that, I believe, when was that? I believe that was in 2019 when I did that. And back then, I wasn't as consistent with my practices. I definitely wasn't trying to do as much as I could. I think what I did was I practiced this, and then maybe a couple months later, I did the next practices, which were these two. I felt kind of discouraged from the first one, and then after that I was just like, well, I don't know if I should keep trying or not. But eventually I did come back to it, and I was like, you know what, I do want to try it. And so the next one after that, I believe, I tried the same design, the same flower. It came out better, but still not very good at all. And then I went on to trying this one, which I don't even know what size I was using. I think I was using a round shader throughout this entire skull, which is why it looks terrible. The next one I did, I believe, was this one, which is, again, a bit too much of a complicated design, too much color in it. And a big problem with these very cheap, very thin skins is they like to smudge and stain a lot. Obviously the problems are pretty I think at this point I did start getting a little bit better with lining. My lines are still wobbly, but some of them are straighter and actually set in there well. I still didn't really learn my lesson of not doing a color piece, and I just moved on to basically the same thing, a little bit bigger, because what I felt was the problem was that design was just too small and I couldn't get the detail in it, but I still couldn't really get the detail in this one either. I wouldn't mind trying to do these designs again. I already did a similar design that we'll see later, but again, the same problems I was having. Pretty wobbly lines, pretty easy to tell, I didn't exactly know what I was doing. I decided to maybe do a little bit more lining, so I ended up with a design like this, a bit more mandala feely, and I know it's not good. I could redo this one. I bet I could do it a lot better now. And especially with that and the dot work in it, to me it just looks like an actual tattoo to me. I don't know if that's just delusional or if it's like a weird way of thinking about it, but it's like, oh, I could actually see that on something. Like, I think my plan for this design was to go on the back of the hand. So I was like, I could actually see that on there, and like I felt right doing the dot work across it. I really enjoyed doing, like, I think that was the start where I was like, you know, that was actually really fun to do. I really enjoyed doing that. And then after that, I ended up doing just little like shading practices, but I was still running into the problem of my ink staining and smearing all over the skin. So that was the problem I have with a lot of these thinner skins, and I did a lot of them. It was flawed from the design, I feel. It just didn't look right. Like, there's a lot of problems. You can probably tell just by looking at it that there's a lot of problems. See, like, just from the beginning, I feel like it's flawed, but I definitely feel like I could put it in more solid, make it like, those tight little feathers are gonna be hard, but I feel like I could still do it. I have enjoyed every step so far of my journey. After that, I then went and decided, you know what, I wanna do something that I really want to do, that I want to try to do, like copy more from media and stuff. So what I ended up doing was big old Gigantamax Pikachu. And a lot of what I need to do is pay attention when doing lining and stuff like that, because for one, I probably wouldn't outline this entire tail, because in Gigantamax Pikachu it is a glowing tail, so it would most likely be full color and just not have any lining to it. I went again with this design, tried to make it a bit better. In my opinion, what I thought would make it better was thickening up the lines. With each one of these, after seeing them, I kept getting the feeling that like, even though some parts are still like need a lot of work, I can see the problems with it, but then I also see, I am progressing, I am getting better. And so that is one thing that helped keep me going. But I actually kind of like the way these turned out, even though you can see the problems with the lining, like the outline of this needs a lot of work and stuff. I did another Pokemon design. I did a Totodile, which used to be one of my favorite starters. I ended up getting a shiny Totodile on Heart Gold, because what I was actually going for was a shiny Chikorita, because I'm always a grass starter, is what I do. Like, obviously you can see the main problems with it. Again, it was hard for me to progress in my lining and stuff, because I just kept having the problem of going all the way through because of how thin these ones are. What I was using for all those pieces prior to this as well, and I believe this one as well, was the Dragonhawk mast. And I don't know exactly what type it is, like what the actual model of it is. I just know it as a Dragonhawk mast. But it came in a kit that I bought to start with, and part of what that didn't help with that feeling was, while I was used to it after a while, was I was also using this battery pack with it, and it fits well. I think it fits well. It was interesting running it. It just made it like, I either had to hold it up like that and keep it like up to where this is vertically so that it just balances, or have it back like that, make me choke up a little bit more on the machine. Otherwise, if I like bump backwards against this, it would knock the battery out and it wouldn't run. But like, it wasn't the best way I did it, which is why after a while of using this, I decided I really need to upgrade to a different machine. And maybe that would help with a lot of my problems, which it did. It helped a lot with my problems. I wanted to do a more traditionally like tattoo style design, so I was like, oh, I want to do a planchette, because that's more in line with the aesthetics of tattoo designs, in my opinion. And this one, like, I can see all the problems with it. Obviously, there's a lot of wobbles, there's a lot of little kinks in it, like a lot of the lines aren't like put well in there. If they were in real skin, they would probably fall out. But I thought this was a pretty decent attempt at shading. I enjoyed the lights I left, bring it a little closer, I enjoyed the lights I left going across the bottom where it would be a little bit beveled, and so you'd be able to see a bit of a shine to it underneath it. I really enjoyed this piece at the moment when I did it. I feel like I'm going to say that a lot. Discovered True Skin, which is the skins that I use now, which just works so great in my opinion. I love it. I feel like multiple times I've had moments where I was like, now that feels like a tattoo, or that looks like a tattoo. This one was a major leap in my brain of like, oh, that looks and feels like a tattoo. Like I would just keep going back and looking at it and just smiling because I was like, that just looks awesome. You can kind of see where I was in this one. I was on a little bit of a video game and fantasy feeling. I got a new machine, which is the current machine that I use, which is the CNC WE. And this one I do like because it comes with 2 batteries, which are magnetic to the back. So you just stick it onto there and then can turn it on. And it has its own one of the main things I don't like about these ones though is having the color system. I redesigned my friend's tattoo because I was in a more I felt like I could do it a lot better instead of just being a simple design oh, the monitor. I was like, you know what, let's make that into say a popsicle. So I made it into it, and I need to retry it and really perfect it because I know at some point he might want that tattoo and I would like to give it to him. And then after that I was kind of in I think the first one I actually did after that one was either the book or the flower, which I think both actually turned out pretty well. I love the shading I did in it. So I feel like with this tattoo skin, I don't really feel like I was that disappointed with any of the tattoos I did in it. This was a redo of this candle was a redo of the candle that I did in black and gray, but I wanted to try it in color, and I actually loved the way it turned out. I think I did a little bit too much orange on the top, but I still loved it. The point where I think the last one I did on this skin was this moth up here, and then I was like, you know what, I probably need to move on to something else. And so I decided, you know what, I probably need to buy some new tattoo skins. I decided to frame it because, in my opinion, this is the best tattoo I've done. To me, it just looks the most complete as a tattoo. I know there's stuff that I can fix with it, a bit of a wobbly shading on the bottom of here. This one just doesn't have any shading at the bottom of it. And I can see a bit of the marks throughout it, when I was tattooing it. But still, looking at it, it looks, in my opinion, it looks pretty amazing. I just love the way it looks. I'll get a little bit of a closer look of it. It just looks I think it just looks sick. It's my favorite design. I love it. Every time I see it, I smile. Then after that was the very first piece on my new 3-foot long skin, and what better piece I felt to do it than Schmitty Werben Jägerman Jensen from SpongeBob. That's basically everything up until this point, and if you enjoyed watching, going through my tattoo journey with me, then I ask that you like and subscribe, and if you have suggestions for designs for me to do, then put them in the comments and I'll look through, like I did with the Crypt Keeper. I'll look through, try to come up with a design, most likely. I'll see you guys in the next practice. Bye.